Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, George Stoya here from the SoonerScoop.com studios. It is a Thursday, which means it is a game day preview. Get ready to pack, get ready to load up the car and go up I-35 and what sounds like it's going to be a miserable Friday around these parts with rain. We'll see about, I'm happy to drive an Eskridge Lexus up at Eskridge and the gang over there. Always a great time sponsor.
Yeah.
Great ride. And then we'll resume back on Saturday evening with Kerry Murdoch for the Eskridge Lexus postgame podcast. But here we are, Oklahoma. We talked about the opportunity that has presented itself with the ability with the win to get bowl eligible, all of that kind of good stuff that goes into that. But let's start with the availability report. Obviously, a lot of eyes on that on Wednesday night. I think that there was a little bit of a surprise, though, with Oklahoma. Certainly, you had some of the knowns that we'll get into here in a second, but Jovantae Barnes was included on it on Wednesday night. And I guess, first off, what's kind of your read on that?
So it is definitely his ankle, which he did turn during the game.
You can
see it here in the clip. He turns his ankle. If you remember this, I believe this was in the first quarter.
First quarter, second play of the second series.
And they, I think third series, right?
Third series, or
yes.
Second series, because they scored on the long one and then they came back, right?
But that was the third offensive series. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
He went out, got his ankle taped, and so you could see it right there. He turned it, but came back in the game and played great. We all saw it. So I don't know if this is a precautionary thing where they're maybe holding him out a little bit in practice, just hoping that the ankle swelling goes down. Those can sometimes be tricky situations where, you can come back into a game, maybe you get shot up a little bit, maybe you retape the ankle, you feel fine, you're running on adrenaline, and then the next couple of days it starts swelling up. So just something to monitor. Obviously, Oklahoma wants Jovantae Barnes to play the way that he's played the last couple of weeks. He's been great. And so just something to keep an eye on the rest of the week. As for the rest of the availability report, good news with Jalil Farouk actually being on it other than out. He's questionable. We'll see. I talked a little bit about it on the unofficial 40. There's some optimism there for him. Same with Deion Burks. I think both those guys have been somewhat limited participants in practice. What that means, does that mean they can play on Saturday? I think it's honestly going to be a game time decision. Same with Michael Tarquin. He's also dealing with an ankle injury. I would assume he's going to be a game time decision. I expect all those guys to travel. We'll see. Again, things can change from now till Friday when they actually, get on the airplane and fly. But, I think that the rest of them, Gavin Sawchuk's on there is questionable. I actually think he's getting close to returning. He could be a help, especially if Jovantae Barnes is a little bit banged up. I don't know
about
anybody else.
Adebawore. He was listed as questionable. Had the I think it was an ankle injury late in the game on Saturday.
Ethan Downs probable.
Very good news there.
I definitely expect him to play. We've kind of talked about that. I think he even maybe could have played against Maine, but it was Maine and you didn't really need him. Back spasms can always pop back up, but you feel good about him getting back out there. Jacob Sexton definitely out. Jake Taylor as well. He will not be traveling as well. So that's kind of it for, I would say, the availability
certainly
report.
One side of it.
Yeah.
I know that there was a lot of eyeballs placed on the Missouri side of things as well. Both of these teams kind of wading through the waters of the injury bug right now. And as you'll hear from Eli Hoff talking from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, certainly sounds like there is a big question mark on the status of Brady Cook going into this weekend.
They're not tipping their hand on that side. I would anticipate he'll be questionable all week, a lot like a lot of Oklahoma's guys, and then a game time decision. Wouldn't even be shocked if we saw Brady Cook go through warm-ups to maybe as a disguise, and he might play. I mean, you saw him last week play against Alabama, but if it's a wrist, hand injury, throwing the football, it's going to be really difficult to come back from. I know they had the bye week off, but even then, even if he plays, is he 100%? Probably not. And I know he's also dealing with the ankle sprain. So certainly something to keep an eye on, as well as their running back, Nate Noel. He's been a big playmaker for him this year. So if they're down those two guys, if you're Oklahoma, you're maybe feeling a little bit better.
We'll have plenty more from the Missouri side of things here in a little bit in the program, talking to Eli Hoff. But you got to talk about Brady Cook, and Brent Venables did so on Tuesday at his weekly press conference, as well as Luther Burden, who obviously is going to present a tremendous challenge for Oklahoma in the secondary. Here is Brent Venables talking about Brady Cook, as well as star wide receiver Luther Burden.
A big fan of his leadership and his toughness. The players, their program, they feed off of him. He's got great juice and just he's fearless. I don't know his entire background, but he's a winner. I think he brings out the best in the players around him, but he plays with emotion, on his sleeve, and you can see the guts and the toughness. Obviously, the Auburn game, they're down by 14 points. He gets banged up, goes out. The game's in balance. He goes to the hospital across the street and comes back in the game, as I said last night, with the Superman cape on, and takes him 13, 4th and 5, a long drive. They go down and they score to come from behind and win that game. But incredible competitor. I know he's somebody that the coaching staff, leans heavily on. He can do it all. He's a great runner. They were the best team in college football last year in the red zone, scoring touchdowns, and a lot of it was because of him. And they had a two-headed monster last year. I believe the SEC's leading rusher on their team and in their schemes and what they do. They've got two fantastic transfer running backs that have done a really nice job this year, a little bit banged up at running back and they're at quarterback, but he'll find a way to show up. I know he's just got a couple of games left, and you don't count that guy out. He's a great player. Yeah, I think it's important that we guys do their job. Do you have to have awareness where he is? Yeah, he's got the most touches on the team when it comes to the receiving room. But they also got Theo Weiss, and they got really good tight ends, and they got really good backs. But he's one of the best players in all of college football. They find a lot of different creative ways to get him the ball in space, the touch game, and then he can really challenge you vertically. He's a home run hitter. He's the ultimate competitor, and you can see his leadership, as well. A guy that's highly invested, and that's been a really big part of their transformation in the last couple of years for them as a program.
Luther Burden, just the 12th Missouri wide receiver to top 2,000 yards, did that a couple weeks ago against Auburn in the come from behind win, as Coach Venables was talking about. And certainly a guy, when you're talking about, even if Brady Cook can't play, you just got to get the ball to his hands and he can change a game.
It's going to be really interesting to see how OU tries to defend him. Do they, you've seen teams, put one guy on him and say, hey, you've got him all game. You're following him. If he motions across, you're going with him. Do you say, okay, Eli Bowen, you've got the Luther Burden assignment, or do they throw multiple guys at him? Do you give him, several different looks? Do you play a safety over the top every single time he's out there, kind of spying on him, right? I don't know. I think Brent Venables, will do a good job with that. It seems like he's always well prepared, him and Zach Alley defensively, with some sort of scheme that maybe Missouri's not ready for. But it's going to be key to make sure that you don't give up the big play. And we've seen this Oklahoma secondary give up the big play several times this year. So containing him, as well as Theo Weiss, which we all know, watching him here at Oklahoma, but then also the way he's played at Missouri, he's had a really big impact in that offense, and containing him is going to be a big priority too.
Might want to look at the game tape and see what Alabama did. A season low 3 receptions for 3 yards last week. That might be a little bit obvious when you're talking about a 34-0 victory for the Crimson Tide a week ago, or I guess 2 weeks ago, coming out of Missouri coming out of a bye week. 2 weeks. You get it. You get what I'm saying. This is a video medium, not audio. I got it. In terms of Eli Bowen, as you said, Dasan McCullough, they both talked with the media on Tuesday night about the challenges that are presented with Missouri's skilled talent.
Sure, they got an explosive offense, obviously with Luther, Theo, and the running backs. They got some explosiveness on their offense, so we just going to have to do a good job containing everybody. The amount of different looks they'll give you, they'll motion into a lot of different stuff. Obviously, Luther's an all-around receiver. I played with Luther at the All-American game, so I know a little bit about him. He's quick, fast, instinctive. When he catches the ball, he's like a running back. And Theo's a longer guy who's kind of starting to explode here in these past 2 years. So we're going to do a good job containing those guys. They're great players, though.
He's explosive. He got a good switch. He's a good receiver, especially after the catch. He gets most of the targets. So got to prepare for that.
We haven't really talked too much about it. It's going to be fun, though. It's going to be cool. You know, for me, I got a high school teammate that played receiver over there, so I'm excited about going back there, going against him and meeting him. But, you know, we're going to treat it just like any other week. It's, you know, we're just excited to go out there and play.
A lot of overlapping when you're talking about guys that, you know, maybe Dasan played with, or obviously all the Oklahoma contingent. Eli Hoff mentions Chris McClellan, who is from the Tulsa
Oklahoma.
area, right? And Oklahoma recruited him twice, going into Florida and then out of Florida, out of the transfer portal. But let's stick with Dasan McCullough for a second, because you asked Brent, and we talked a little bit about it on the Unofficial 40, which you can hear on all of your podcasting platforms, as well as right here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. But the Cheetah position has kind of been in flux, and I think obviously because of the injury to Kendall Dolby, there's been some questions, and they're really kind of trying to figure that thing out right now.
Yeah, you know, when they lost Kendall, I think the quote that Brent Venables gave was, "It's going to be really hard to replace Kendall Dolby," and he was talking about his on-the-field play as well as the leadership and just the type of guy he was off the field. But you've seen that play out in terms of who they're playing at the Cheetah position. At first, it was Samuel Almasigo, and you loved some of the things that you saw. And then there were some, you know, mental lapses here and there from him. You know, that's expected as a young player thrown into a position like that. You saw Woody Washington, a veteran guy, go out there and play a lot of the position. But he's more of a cover guy, right? He's a corner. You're not going to be bringing him on a blitz. He's not a big guy. And then you have Dasan McCullough, who I think has kind of taken over that starting role at the Cheetah position. He played it last year. He came in. He was the guy after Justin Harrington got hurt. He's played the position. It sounds like he's way more comfortable in it in this year. They're using more of his skill set in terms of as a pass rusher, off the edge, a tackler, all of those things. But it's still tough, Eddie, because when you throw a guy like Dasan McCullough out there, I think teams know he's probably not going to be guarding the slot receiver that maybe he's lined up against. Whereas a Woody Washington, you know he's dropping back in coverage. So they're having to kind of tip their hand. I think that position's played well, but it sure is missing somebody like Kendall Dolby, who is so versatile there.
Three completely different body styles. When we were talking about Samuel Masigo, Dasan McCullough, as well as Woody Washington. George talked to Brent Venables and also a little bit more with Dasan and just kind of everything that has gone in with the position this year at the Cheetah position. Here it is.
Since Kendall Dolby went out, it's been kind of a rotating door at Cheetah. You guys have been playing a lot of different guys, Sammy, Dasan, Woody, maybe some younger guys. What have you thought about that position in particular since Kendall's gone down, and how tough has it been? I know when he got hurt, you said that he was going to be a really tough guy to replace. How tough has it been for you guys
again,
there?
Going into the game, going into the season, I talked about Kendall Dolby as being one of our best defensive players because of his unique skill set, his ability to play big, his ability to fit the run game, to pressure, to cover. And I think that the group of players that you mentioned have done a nice job, and we're still trying to figure out that group of guys and continue to develop them. There's only so many reps to go around when you look at a course of a week, and so prior to him getting hurt, everybody wasn't getting reps. Dasan wasn't even back yet. Sammy actually last summer and in the spring, we worked him a lot of inside linebacker and less outside linebacker. Now Woody's been a move-around guy, corner and safety and the dime and the nickel. And so I think that is still a position rather that has a chance to continue to improve, to be a little more detailed. And but those guys have done a nice job. The body of work is good, and we're working really hard and diligently to get it better.
What do you like about playing that Cheetah position?
Shoot, I think now it's just my understanding of it has changed, so I kind of like the versatility of me being able to show my zone coverage along with me blitzing and being able to show me in the box. So I feel like that gets to show my versatility.
You played there a lot last year. Is there any maybe differences in the way you're playing it this year, and just maybe what are those differences?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like last year I was playing more DB than I was linebacker. I feel like with Coach Alley this year, he's more so adjusted to me and what to call while I'm out there. So I feel like he has a real good understanding of who I am as a player, so it's been good.
Dasan, this might be a dumb question, but who coaches the Cheetah position? I know that you guys, every other position has like a position coach, but who kind of coaches?
I would say that it's Coach Brewer. Xavier Brewer. So I'd say it's him. He's been with us every day. I meet with him every single day, go over tape, go over corrections. He's the one that's helping us with alignments and stuff like that during practice if it's not Coach V or Coach Ali. So I'd say it's him. Yes, sir.
Tell us about him. What kind of coach is he?
Oh, he's been phenomenal. I'm not gonna lie. You can come to him about anything. He understands it from the Cheetah perspective. So he wasn't playing 30 years ago. So he just got done playing himself not too long ago, and he was playing Cheetah. So he understands the position. So that's huge for us, is to have a guy in the room who's played it, has experience, and brings that to us. So he's sharing that knowledge with us.
Can you speak to just how difficult that position is to learn? Because it feels like you ask him to do a lot of different things.
I think the skill set is what's the challenge. The further away from the ball you get, the easier it is. You get in there and play one of those inside linebacker spots, everything is a lot more challenging. And, the blocking schemes are different. They change on any particular play. Playing behind the ball is a little more challenging from a mental aspect. Mentally, outside there at that position is a lot easier, in my opinion. And skill set is what you got to have a unique ability to play in that position. And but from what you ask them to do, from a job description standpoint, a little simpler, just keep you outside arm free.
No big deal. Just keep that outside arm free a little bit. Here in Brandon, I got a chuckle out of that.
Coach speak.
Xavier Brewer, tremendous player for Clemson, four-year letter winner, recorded 193 career tackles, 60.5 tackles for loss, including 3 sacks, 5 interceptions, 23 pass breakups, 3 forced fumbles from 2009 to 2012. So not a bad, feature to learn from.
He was Brent's first ever Cheetah.
Interesting.
So
it's crazy.
Because they used to call it the Roy back, I believe, when that's what Roy Williams played. Then when he went to Clemson, I believe the name changed to Cheetah, and Xavier Brewer moved to Cheetah for Brent and was a stud at it. So
I would imagine that he's probably had the same effect on that Cheetah position as maybe a James Skalski has had.
Definitely.
A number of
and
former Clemson players here helping.
Kind of going off on a tangent here, but that's kind of the beauty of now that these analysts, offensive analysts, defensive analysts can now help with on-field coaching. That's one of the benefits of it.
No doubt about it. We'll get into hear from Eli Hoff here in a second, but first let's tell you about our good friends over at Prize Picks. Hopefully we've made you a little bit of money. All you got to do is put in $5. You're going to get $50 instantly using the promo code SoonerScoop. Just go to download the app is what I use, Prize Picks, or you can go to the website, prizepicks.com, and it's very simple to use. I know that you've been picking out some winners here over the last couple of weeks. What are we going with this week?
Yeah, I'm going to the big SEC game of the weekend, Alabama LSU.
That's not Oklahoma, Missouri?
Nope. This one's on ABC this week.
I believe so, yes.
Taking Jalen Milroe over 230 and a half passing yards, as well as Garrett Nussmeier over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I think it's going to be a high-scoring
game. Some points,
game.
huh?
Yeah.
Some points. I'm going to go with Derek Carr over 0.5 passing touchdowns. I like the spot for the Saints. They not to get on a tangent here. They stink, but they did fire Dennis Allen earlier this week. I think they went straight up on Sunday to beat the Atlanta Falcons, and then Kyler Murray over 28.5 rushing yards. They get the New York Jets coming into town to Phoenix this weekend. So just go to Prize Picks. Just download the app or go to prizepicks.com. Use the promo code as you see there on the screen behind me, Sooner Scoop. $5, get $50 instantly for your weekend ahead. Now let's transfer over back into OU, Missouri. We did catch up with our good friend Eli Hoff from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch to get a little bit more on Eli Drinkwich's team going into the weekend. Now, welcome in Eli Hoff from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. And Eli, thanks for joining us. Obviously, had a lot of fun catching up with you during the opponent preview. The week is here, Oklahoma, Missouri, coming up on Saturday night. And let's just start here. Obviously, there's going to be some injury questions about both teams going into this one. Just in terms of Missouri, 6-2 on the year. I think from the outside looking in, it feels like there's some disappointment within the Missouri fan base. What's the vibe check right now of Eli Drinkwich's team going into this one on Saturday night?
Yeah, I think disappointment is the best way to put it. I've gotten some questions from fans of whether you can call this year a failure for Mizzou, which again feels sort of weird when they've only got 2 losses at this point. have bowl eligibility in the bag, have all that wrapped up already. But it's just because, when we talked in the summer, we were talking about Mizzou as a potential CFP team. I was saying the schedule is favorable, the path is there, all these things that ended up being true, except Mizzou went and got blown out by Texas A&M and got shut out by Alabama, and poof, there it goes, more or less. So definitely the vibes have come down in Columbia since that point, and it hasn't been helped by the fact that Mizzou hasn't been competitive in its 2 losses, and hasn't really had a statement win to balance that out in any capacity. So yeah, it's been a rough go for the Tigers so far.
Eli, let's get into some of the injury stuff, because we know all about injuries here at Oklahoma, but I know there's some big question marks. Not only Brady Cook, which if you could give us an update on him, that'd be great, but also running back Nate Noel. I know that he's a guy that has also been a big part of this offense. What's the status update on those 2 guys?
Yeah, it's tough to know at this point. We just haven't gotten a ton of information about this. Mizzou has closed reporters out of practice since Brady Cook got hurt, so we're not even seeing what it's looking like if he's throwing any of that. The hardest part for Brady Cook to play this weekend, nobody doubts his toughness or that he's going to try to give it a go, is that he's got 2 separate injuries right now. So he has a high ankle sprain that he suffered during Mizzou's game a few weeks back against Auburn. That was the one where he left during the game, got an MRI at the hospital, came back to lead a comeback. People probably heard about that one. So high ankle sprain that can often keep people out for a few weeks at least. He's battling that, and then but he came back to play a week later against Alabama and promptly smacked his throwing hand on an offensive lineman's helmet. An X-ray ruled him out there, so it's an injury to his throwing hand, wrist area in there. So 2 separate things. He's starting the week as questionable. I think he's definitely got an uphill battle to be able to play, but it might be something that comes down to how he's feeling Saturday afternoon, once they give him what they need to give him and put braces on and tape and all that stuff. And then Nate Noel, he had a foot injury against Auburn. He did not play in the Alabama game, but now Mizzou's coming off a bye, so he's had 2 weeks basically of just rest, recovery, etc. He's starting the week at questionable too. It seems like he's more likely to be able to go, but we don't 100% know the nature of that injury either. So it's tough to say for both. But and we can talk about this, but the implications of either being out are tough for Mizzou if it wants to score points without either of them in the game.
I was gonna say this is kind of a tough question, not knowing the status of both of those guys going into Saturday. But from an offensive perspective, Luther Burden will be there. Theo Weiss, obviously former Oklahoma wide receiver, will be there. 2 outlets for whomever is the quarterback. Let's stick with the quarterbacks. Drew Pine, I know that he's, I guess, become a little bit infamous online for fans that have watched him wherever he may be. Is it that big of a drop-off? And just in terms of offensively, what would that thing look like if it couldn't be Brady Cook on Saturday and it had to be Drew Pine?
Well, that's the question, and frankly, the X factor going into this game, if it is Drew Pine there, he's someone who just a few weeks ago some people were clamoring for because he had the benefit of popularity that you get when you're the backup quarterback. Sure. And then he came in against Auburn and didn't do a whole lot, and then he came in against Alabama and did a whole lot of completing passes to the Crimson Tide. Right, he had 3 picks in that game, and it was. They were costly. I don't know how you could have a 3 interception performance that isn't costly, but his was costly. And so there's a lot of questions about what he can do. He's got experience. He started at Notre Dame and won games at Notre Dame. He started at Arizona State before coming to Mizzou. So it's not like he's never seen college football or a big name defense before. He should have that experience that helps him. But a lot of questions just about how Mizzou can move the ball with him in the game and get any sort of production. He's had the benefit of the bye week, like I said before, to get some prep in there, but that didn't help against Alabama. He was taking the first team reps all week with Brady Cook on the shelf for that week, and that led to 3 interceptions. So confidence is low. I think the bar to clear for him is also low, but Mizzou's going to need more than what he has shown he can provide so far to have a chance.
Working in his favor, Eli, is obviously Luther Burden. Tell us about not only the year that Luther's had, but some of these other guys. I know Luther was somebody that we all expected maybe to be a Biletnikoff type guy. His numbers haven't lived up to that yet, but I feel like OU would kill for a guy like Luther Burden right now, or Theo Weiss.
Luther Burden, if they could just get like half of his body.
Exactly. I think that would be great. But who are also some of the other guys on this roster offensively that could be playmakers for Mizzou on Saturday?
Yeah, so I mean, Luther Burden and Theo Weiss are the 2 names to know there. Neither of their numbers have been particularly great, given that they've been saying all summer they wanted to be the best wide receiver core in the nation. That just hasn't happened. I mean, the talent is there. Nobody's disputing that. You watch Luther Burden play, you play with him in the video game, and like you know how good he is and can be, especially once the ball's in his hands. The challenge for him has just been that Mizzou isn't always scheming up ways to get him the ball as often or as creatively as you'd think. During that Auburn game, it wasn't until the 31st offensive play that Luther Burden got a touch. That can't happen when you have that good of a football player. You have to give him the ball at least once in the first 30 plays, probably several more times than that. So that'll be something to watch again, especially if it's Drew Pine, of just how Mizzou goes about getting the ball to him. Theo Weiss has actually been the leading receiver for most of the year, just with Luther Burden. He had a game where he left with a mid-game illness, and he just hasn't been on the field at 100% for all year. So Theo Weiss has really had a big role. But even so, it's been kind of a step back from last year. Last year, he just had this phenomenal contested catch display that was, he was catching so many touchdowns because Mizzou got in the red zone and got man coverage. They were looking for Theo Weiss. He only has one touchdown so far this year. So there's been a drop off there. As far as other names to know, Mookie Cooper has been the third starting wide receiver. He missed the Alabama game. He's doubtful to play this week. We have no idea what his injury is. But so it seems like they won't have him. So then it's going to come down to some of these younger guys. Marquise Johnson is one of the fastest college football players I've ever seen. It's just about what his route tree is beyond that. And Joshua Manning is probably who will be the other starter there. He's another younger guy. He's got some speed. He's got some size. He has some similarities to Theo Weiss, actually, in terms of just skill set, route tree portfolio. But those are kind of the receivers to know heading into this one.
In terms of offensive line, what kind of season have they had? And specifically with Caden Green, what's that situation been? It seems like it's been up and down. I don't know if bench would be the right way to portray it, but certainly hasn't been a every snap full-time starter. What's the offensive line looking like for Missouri going into this weekend?
Yeah, it's been a step back in that area as well, which in retrospect we probably should have expected. Mizzou was losing both its left guard and left tackle, who each had 40 plus starts by the time their careers were over, and you can't replace experience like that very easily. So Caden Green came in. He's been the starting left guard for the most part. He got partially replaced when Mizzou played its non-conference game at UMass and was splitting snaps there. And then he got pulled from the Alabama game after only a series or two. It turns out that was actually more of an injury situation. He got rolled up on and just wasn't 100%, so the team didn't want to put him out there. He is on the injury report this week. He's starting the week as probable, but it sounds like he'll be good to go there. And he's looked kind of raw at times and looked like he's a second year offensive lineman. There just have been some plays, especially in that Texas A&M game, where you'd watch. They had the Skycam view for that game, so you could watch and you just see Caden Green, not blocking anybody and not really knowing who he should be going for, knowing the assignment and some of that. So it's been tough for him. And then Marcus Bryant, the starting left tackle, is coming in from SMU. It's just been a wake-up call, him getting to the SEC. He's gotten a little bit better as the year's gone, but it's been a question mark at times. So the left side of the offensive line is the side to attack with Mizzou.
Eli, tell us about this defense. A lot of turnover on that side of the football. A lot of guys that went to the NFL draft, obviously a new defensive coordinator. What has been good and bad on the defensive side of the football, and who are some guys that Oklahoma fans should know going into this game?
Yeah, it's been really interesting to watch, just with Corey Batoon replacing Blake Baker, who left for LSU as the coordinator there. Their schemes are definitely different. Blake Baker was someone who would blitz at every available opportunity. Corey Batoon really isn't. There hasn't been a whole lot of added pressure, and especially when Mizzou tends to go against a mobile quarterback, they tend to actually really ease off on the pressure and kind of play a containment style. And it's largely worked. Like that 34-0 scoreline against Alabama looks bad. Going into halftime there, it was very competitive because the defense was playing lights out, especially on third down. They just, once Drew Pine started giving away the ball inside Mizzou's half of the field, there's only so much a defense can do. So they've put together some strong showings. The concern has been coverage busts, and especially when the safeties have to be picking up guys. They have a tendency to get stuck watching the quarterback and looking in the backfield and looking for picks. And then all of a sudden there's a receiver who's gotten 10 yards over the top, and that's a 47-yard, 50-yard touchdown. That's happened in multiple games and has been a point of emphasis. I think names to know, Marvin Burks is the starting safety back there who's given up some of those things. So it'll be interesting to see if teams start targeting him or trying to force him to make decisions when he's dropping back into some of these zones or some of these too high safety looks. As far as on the defensive line, Chris McClellan is a defensive tackle who transferred in from Florida. He's really, really come on as this season has progressed. And then I think one of the more surprising players has been Corey Flagg, the middle linebacker. He's a pretty little guy for being a linebacker, and I have a working hypothesis that he does well because quarterbacks don't really see him because he's shorter than the trees that are in the trenches. And so then the quarterback will escape, and all of a sudden he's right there. Even a running back will get through the line, and he's right there. He had what was almost a pick six against UMass if he'd been a little bit quicker. So he's a fun guy to watch in the heart of the defense, and it'll be interesting to see what he does in this game.
Special teams wise, just looking at the numbers, Blake Craig's had a decent year. What's going on from 40 to 49? He's 1 for 5 this year, but he has a hell of a leg, it seems, with a long of 56, 4 for 7 from 50 plus. What's the special teams been like for the Missouri Tigers this year?
Yeah, that's been really interesting because we'd known it was going to be a transition year for Missouri coming into this year with Harrison Mevis, the thicker kicker. He was done. And so this is Blake Craig. He was in the program last year redshirting, but this is his first time being a college kicker. And it's had some really high highs like that 56-yarder and some really low lows with some misses that just shouldn't happen. I don't know why 40 to 49 is harder for him than 50 plus. I wonder if it's one of those things where for kickers, if it's such a long kick, you're not really thinking about placing it. You're just like, I just got to boot the crap out of this ball and hope for the best. And maybe that's when he's a little bit better. But, it hasn't too often been a problem for Mizzou. It's just, special teams has been fine. They've done what they've needed. Don't want to lean on him too much, but he can step up at times there when needed. It will be interesting through the if Drew Pine is the quarterback lens. Mizzou might need Blake Craig a little bit more. If the offense just is able to get around the 30-yard line, but not much closer, they're going to need him to hit from that 45-ish yard range, I think, pretty consistently in this one.
Eli, last one for me. This is such a big game, I feel like, for both programs in terms of, obviously, Missouri. You look at Missouri's schedule. If they win out, I think that they still have a very good chance at possibly making the college football playoff, or at least, being in the conversation. Oklahoma obviously trying to finish its season strong and what's been a disappointing year. And then you look at these two fan bases, and there's been some, I think spicy was the word that was used at Brent Venables' press conference
Certainly
this week.
Some candor online.
Yeah. What do you think just the atmosphere and the vibe will be in Columbia this weekend among the fans? And you add in, obviously, the old, Big 12, Big 8, familiar foes, all the history between the two schools. Just what do you feel like from the fan base is going to be the vibe as Oklahoma comes into Columbia for the first time since what,
2010, I believe.
Yeah.
Last time they played was 2011, I believe.
Yes, yeah, you're right on that. This is one of the things that I'm the most interested to see. So the game's a sellout and has been a sellout since the day single game tickets went on sale at Mizzou. That's how excited these fans are. But like we talked about at the beginning here, enthusiasm has dipped pretty steeply for Mizzou. So you have the combination of kind of a lack of enthusiasm about where this program's at, a lack of enthusiasm, frankly, about the offense if it's Drew Pine who's the quarterback there. But then you have all that. I like spicy. That's a great word to describe what Mizzou and Oklahoma has been online the last couple years. You have all of that. Plus, it will be a night game. It might be rainy in Columbia, but it'll be a night game for this. That's a recipe for what could be a really good environment there. If it's a situation where the stadium does not look full, despite it being a sellout, that's concerning for Mizzou that a chunk of the fan base has gone pretty quickly. But also, if the stadium is full, if the fans are in there making the stuff and Mizzou comes out and plays flat, that's concerning too because fans are doing their job but the team isn't. So I think it's got the potential to be a really great environment just with what the opponent is, the timing of this. But I think there are also reasons why it could not quite be what we thought it was going to be when we were talking about this game in the summer.
Just in terms of stadium, I know have they started the expansion stuff up there with the stadium, or is that being pushed on until next season or until the summer, I guess?
So the bulk of it will start once the season's over. They're technically having the groundbreaking on the day of Mizzou's regular season finale, but they've started doing some of the work there. So it's on the north end of the stadium where that grassy hill and the rock M is.
Sure.
Just in the kind of parking lot beyond that, they've closed it off and they have some construction equipment there. They're basically trying to get everything that's non-invasive, minimally invasive, get that stuff going now while they can, just to make use of the days when the stadium isn't in use even this fall. So nothing too drastic. The stadium looks normal. It's just the outside will have some fences and construction equipment.
One last thing before we get out of here, Eli. Any places, I know a bunch of OU fans are making this trip. any places, any spots that you're like, hey, if you're in town, you got to go here?
So yeah, so the two big ones, the like iconic Columbia things that one of these I think Sports Illustrated had at one point named like the best college town bar or something in the country. So Booch's Burgers is a good one in downtown Columbia. It's along 9th Street there. Two things to know before going to Booch's: they do not take credit cards. They
Love that.
None of that. You have to have cash. The burgers they're not quite sliders, but they're a little smaller. So the rule is 1 for a snack, 2 for a meal, 3 if you're hungry, to get their burgers there. So that's a good spot. They've got pool tables, beer, everything there. They have apparently pretty good chili. I've never tried it, but so that's a great spot to hit. And then Shakespeare's Pizza is the famous pizza place also in downtown Columbia. It'll get super busy on game days, but it's a lot of fun to go there. My pick, though, especially if there's Oklahoma fans who are coming in like Friday night and they need a night to kill, go to Broadway Brewery in downtown Columbia. It's all they brew their own beer there. It's super cheap, super good. Got a great bar, great cocktails, and the food is really good. They've got barbecue pizzas. They've got decent chicken there, good sandwiches on there, and it's all Missouri sourced. So maybe Oklahoma fans don't want to eat Missouri cuisine this weekend, and that's fine. But if you want a taste of Missouri, Broadway Brewery is a good spot to go. I don't think they'll have music on Friday, but they sometimes have music there too. So those are kind of the 3 spots I'd say if you go to at least one of those, you'll have a good time this weekend.
It's a fun college town. I'm excited for the
check him out.
trip. He is Eli Hoff with St. Louis Post-Dispatch and getting us a little bit more familiar with the Missouri Tigers. Looking forward to the weekend, and we'll see you Saturday. Should be fun. Thank you, Eli.
Yeah, for sure. Safe travels coming up, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Eli.
Special thank you to Eli Hoff for joining us. I think we maybe figured out one of the spots that we're going to be going for lunch on Saturday with the late kickoff at 6:45. It's a good time to get your tickets now because obviously the Thunder are now on a 6-game homestand starting on Friday night. Got the Golden State Warriors coming into town on Sunday evening for a 6 o'clock tip-off, as well as OU basketball, OU football with Alabama coming to town in a couple weeks. All you got to do is hit up our friends over at Game Time. Really, really easy app. I think that's probably the best way to explain it with some of the best prices that you could possibly find.
Yeah, I mean, I've used it several times for Thunder games, concert tickets. I might go over to the OU men's basketball game in next week on Monday night against Powerhouse Northwestern State. But yeah, super easy to use. And again, I love the feature right there where you can see exactly where your seat is.
All you got to do is use the Game Time app. And if you don't have it, download it now. Create an account and use code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. And it's just, again, it's the easiest thing that you could possibly do is download the app and create an account. Use the code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price. And it's a guarantee, folks. It's a guarantee. That's all you got to know about it. And that's where we need to be. You can use it for any of the games coming up here for the Oklahoma City Thunder, even though they got beat on Wednesday night. The undefeated season.
Well, the league is rigged.
And I would also probably just go ahead and point out that the season now has an asterisk because of that. 81-1 won't be bad, though.
No,
it'll be good to welcome back. Let's get back into the swing of things here with OU and Missouri headed up to Columbia on Saturday. And, we did get to talk to a number of guys this week. 2 of them were true freshmen, Eli Bowen, who we've heard from already, as well as Jaden Jackson, who continues to have a really successful freshman campaign.
They've both been phenomenal. And, I think back to August when we started kind of hearing the Jaden Jackson may start rumblings, and you look up and we're in November now, and I would argue he's maybe been their best interior defensive tackle. He has been so consistent week to week. He stayed healthy at a position that sometimes it's hard to. And it's not like they have this 6-man rotation. They're basically playing 4 guys. David Stone's kind of entered the mix as of late, but he's been phenomenal. And then Eli Bowen was somebody that, look, I don't, not to say that we didn't think he was going to get on the field at all this year, but to think that he's going to be a starter to end the season for them pretty much and has maybe been their best corner this season. It just says a lot about the kid. Obviously, that family has great genes and great football IQ because those 2 guys, Eli and Peyton, have been obviously really good for Oklahoma. But, super impressed with both true freshmen. And it just kind of speaks to what Oklahoma's building on that side of the football. I know there's been a lot of issues on the offensive side, but you can see the competitive depth and the athletes that they're trying to recruit, the guys that they're getting in here are damn good football players.
A pair of really talented freshmen. We heard from them on Tuesday. Here is Eli Bowen as well as Jaden Jackson.
Have gone this season. What would becoming bowl eligible mean for this team?
I mean, a lot. I mean, showing us progression, showing us that we continue to get better through each game, each week, and just prove to us that we know where we can stand and we know how good we could be.
Why do you think you've been able to handle physicality so well? Like you haven't wilted yet as a true freshman.
I really do feel like, that all took place before the season even happened. So, doing the working, grinding consistently on the practice field, just preparing myself, especially the older guys taking me in ropes, getting me used to like what's about to happen. And so I really do thank the older guys for taking me in and showing me the ropes, because that definitely took a toll, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I feel like they prepared me.
Being a young guy, you think you get a lot more trash talk than other guys out there?
Yeah, definitely. I think my respect isn't as high as all the other people, so I'm definitely going to get talked to. I'm definitely going to get, that extra shove after the whistle and stuff. So
how have you kind of learned to deal with that, or have you always been kind of good at giving it back to guys?
I feel like I've always been like that since I'm a smaller corner. They're always going to try and pick on me, whatnot. They think I'm overhyped or something, so I've always been prepared to deal with that in everything I do.
Who's the better trash talker, you or Peyton?
Definitely Peyton. Yeah, he wins those disputes between us.
How special has it been playing this year? I know going into the season, you guys knew you were going to play together, but now we're 9 games deep. How special has this season been playing with him?
It's been great, honestly. He's my brother, obviously, so watching him do good, watching him succeed, and chase our dreams together is just something special that you can't really put words on.
Really kind of fun with the obviously the Van sisters over in the basketball, and Jenny Bronchek's basketball program, got the Bowen brothers on the football team. But let's get into a little bit. We weren't going to let you out of here without talking a little bit about the Oklahoma offense. They've taken strides. We'll see what that looks like come Saturday.
Yeah, it's gonna be it's a huge test, Eddie. Look, if they can do what they did against Maine, they'll win a lot of football games. But if they could do what they did against Ole Miss, I think they're going to have a very good chance. I mean, they were able to move the ball in that game. I know in the second half it kind of fell apart.
Sure.
But they got behind and were, I think in obvious passing situations late in that game. But I think you got to be able to run the football. Jackson Arnold has to play a great game, and we've seen it. We did the numbers. I think it was on Tuesday's practice report. He is performing a lot better than he did before he was benched. So if they can do that, offensive line's got to be able to hold together. And look, they're going to have some moments that they don't. That's going to happen in this game. That's the reality of the situation. But if they can hold together for most of the game, run the football a little bit, maybe you get some playmakers back at wide receiver, maybe this offense can take another step in the right direction.
Brent Venables talking about Missouri defensively, as well as a little bit of a catch-up with QB1 Jackson Arnold on Tuesday night.
Well, they're really good this year, statistically speaking. They don't give up much. And a year ago, they were incredibly disruptive. Knew a lot of the same types of schemes. Their coordinator left and went to LSU in the out of season, but the rest of their staff stayed. And they really picked up where they left off of last year. They're stingy in everything that they do. One of the best in college football on third down. I think they're fourth in the country in that regard. They're giving up only under 20 points a game, so they're playing with great confidence, incredibly consistent. I know a couple of their guys, their safety, Joseph Charleston, was a really good player for us at Clemson, and he transferred there maybe 2 years ago and has done a really great job. And then Toriano Pride, I've been in his living room and at his high school, know his family well. Fantastic player. He's the first corner off the bench, and all their stuff that they do there. They're playing really well at corner. And but they've got really good players. They've done a really nice job at developing their players. They got a system that those guys believe in, and they don't give up much. So they've done a great job.
You look more comfortable since everything happened against Tennessee. What's gone into that? Just what's your meetings been like with Coach Johns and his role and everything that's kind of got you where you are right now?
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing was kind of not playing carefree, but I got nothing else to lose. Just kind of having that edge and playing like that's really let me see things better. and just play more comfortable, more loose. And then with Coach Johns too, I feel like since he got promoted, he's been big about us being efficient as quarterbacks. So whether that's getting through reads quick and boom, taking off, not sitting in the pocket too long, or just even just getting completions. Like today in practice, he was harping about us in 7-on-7, not throwing an incomplete ball. He just wants to create completions and be efficient. Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, just the things that he teaches us and how to be efficient and even different like footwork drills that he does with us is I've seen improvement so far. Even through 3 weeks of my pocket movement, getting to progressions quicker and easier, and yeah, he's really helped us so far.
Jackson, that wasn't his role earlier, but did you get any interaction with him, any coaching from him before he took over quarterback?
A little bit here and there, but Coach Johns, if you ever get to actually sit down and talk to Coach Johns, he when he came in here, he told me this. He's like, he didn't want to step on any toes. He just wanted to be here. He wanted to learn from the dudes in the room and improve his game and his play call while he was here. And so he never really stepped out and coached us per se, but ever since now and since he got hired, he's been very vocal with us, got us all together on Sunday night to go over things that he wanted for us for the week.
Kevin John certainly played some type of role here over the last couple of weeks with the development of Jackson Arnold, and if Oklahoma's going to get bowl eligible, Jackson Arnold's going to need to play well. As you said, the numbers pre and post benching, 538 yards, 59.8 percentage, completion percentage, 7 touchdowns to 3 interceptions early, and then he got benched, comes back, 631 yards, 62.5 completion percentage, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. He looks like a different guy. We'll see here. This is going to kind of be that next step, though, in building off what we saw, somewhat in the second half against South Carolina, but more specifically over the last 8 quarters against Ole Miss and then Maine.
I think the biggest thing you've seen from Jackson is he's playing a little bit more loose. He kind of alluded to that, but he's also just taking what's given to him. It felt like early in the season, especially when the offense was really struggling, it felt like they were really trying to force some deep balls or some passes down the field, and it felt like he had to make up for the offense not being explosive. Now it's that message that he just talked about, Kevin Johns. No incompletions, just complete passes, and good things will happen, right? And you've seen that the last couple of weeks where he's throwing it to the running back out of the backfield. He's throwing it to the tight end who may be only 3 or 4 or 5 yards down the field. He's taking what's given to him. He's getting out of the pocket early. He's not letting, he's not holding on the ball too long. He's not putting the ball in dangerous positions. He has to continue to do that. It's one thing to do it against Maine, which he looked really crisp and clean and all those things. Can you do it against a really good opponent like Missouri? He did against Ole Miss for the most part, right? Like it was a really good performance by him, especially in the first half. Can you put it together for 4 quarters? Because if you can, I think this team can win some football games. I think they can win this game against Missouri. Who the hell knows what happens in Alabama and LSU? I know we don't think they're going to win those games, but if you can suddenly start putting this thing together, you'd feel a hell of a lot better about this football team at the end of the year.
Sure, and maybe even more so moving into 2025. We'll get to that bridge. We'll cross it when we get there, right? But they do only have 3 games left in the regular season. On Monday, Danny Stutsman was named a semifinalist for the Butkus Award. He's on the verge of some pretty big historical numbers when you talk about an Oklahoma career for a linebacker. 9 tackles away from entering the top 10 all-time for career tackles at Oklahoma. Terrell Peters and Darrell Hunt, some names ahead. Obviously, Darrell Hunt, number 1 all-time with 530. Danny just at 344 tackles. Probably not going to get the all-time leadership.
Never know.
But you never know. Yeah, that wouldn't be good for OU defensively, as well as tackles for loss, 35.5. And he will certainly get into the top 5. Just needs a half of a tackle for loss. Would pass the likes of Rufus Alexander, who works with the linebackers currently as, I believe, an analyst with the program, as well as Torrance Marshall, a name that is certainly in Sooner lore. But it's kind of crazy that, this is a season that he obviously came back. We covered that story way back in December and January of last year. And certainly the season hasn't gone how I think a lot of people would have expected or wanted, but at the same time is going to leave a incredible legacy in that linebacker room for Oklahoma.
It's crazy that he's a semifinalist this year with worse numbers than what he had a year ago.
Sure.
He should have easily been a semifinalist, probably even a finalist a year ago with what he did statistically a year ago. But what he's meant for this program is incredible. I mean, I think he's a guy, You look at the turnover from a few years ago when Lincoln Riley left, and Danny choosing to stay. I know that he came to Oklahoma. Brian Odom recruited him. Obviously, he went to USC originally. But for him to stay and kind of be really a pillar of what Brent Venables wants to build here defensively, I think that he's been huge in this program and obviously a great player on the field. You read off the stats. He's going to leave his place in that area. But I think more so as a leader, a guy that, every single week, even when things are not going well, he is the guy that comes out and speaks to the media, always speaks for the team, and, sometimes can maybe be a little controversial in terms of just being a little bit more out there, but always, I feel like, says the right things, sets the tone for this team, and has just been a tremendous guy to, I think for us even, Eddie, just getting to know him. He's been an awesome dude to get to know, and I guess we can save some of that stuff for senior week here in a couple weeks, but it is kind of crazy to think that he's only got 3 games left as a Sooner.
Yeah, just one more home game, which is even more insane. Here is Kobe McKenzie as well as Dasan talking a little bit more about kind of just the legacy and what Danny has brought to the program.
That's really awesome. I actually saw that and heard about that today. I also heard that he's like number 10 on the all-time tackle list. That's really, really cool. But that's not a surprise to me at all. Like, it really isn't. I'm with the dude every day. I see it. I've seen it. So I'm excited for him. Shoot, I got a huge appreciation for Danny. Just since I got here, he was on my official visit. He was my little whatever you want to call it, little host or whatever. So I've been with Danny since the moment I got here. So all he's done is led and been a player. He's really like a player's player. Like, he's not like someone around the facility that's trying to act like a coach or something like that. So we all get along with Danny. Having him back here this year has been huge from a leadership standpoint. Heading into the SEC, we needed a guy like that, just a guy who's been through it, had that many snaps, an explosive player. So all appreciation for Danny and him coming back.
Sum up what he's meant to you in your career since you've been here, and what he's meant to this program since
Yeah, I've known Danny for a long time, probably since I was a junior in high school, and it was his senior year. So I've known Danny for a long time. And he's just always been a good dude. He's always been Danny, as people like to say. He's just Danny, like, that's Danny. But he's been a really, really good brother, friend. That we'll be at each other's wedding someday. That's truly my brother for life.
It's going to be kind of weird not seeing 28 out there. You have 3 more games, maybe 4, maybe 5 or 6 if you make the playoffs. I don't think that's going to be happening this year. But you do get putting more of Danny Stutsman here moving forward, and a big game coming up on Saturday. It's certainly an opportunity. I know that's kind of been the catchphrase or the word of the week, but it's all out there for you. We'll see how you can close this final 3 games.
And just a massive game for Brent Venables and his program. Obviously this year it's not gone the way that anybody wanted it to, but if you can get to a bowl game, maybe win 2 of these last 3, even just win 1 of these last 3 and extend your season, I think you can feel a little bit better about yourself heading into the offseason. And when you talk about Brent Venables and is he the guy, long-term for Oklahoma, this is the type of game that you have to go win, right? This is the type of game that you can kind of hang your hat on, kind of like we said it earlier in the season, Auburn was a must-win, and they went up there, found a way. Auburn certainly gave it to them in a lot of ways, but you have to find a way this week. This is a game for Oklahoma that it feels like, to me, Eddie, is a must-win.
This game will be played on paper, obviously, but we'll be keeping an eye on that Thursday availability report, certainly with Jovantae Barnes.
Comes out around 7, so
7 o'clock each night here moving forward into the game on Saturday evening in Columbia. So I don't know. I'm kind of excited. This is a big road game.
I'm fired up.
There's nothing like covering big road games, especially in conference play, which, all is kind of new for Oklahoma this year as they venture into the SEC. So for George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll be back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel on Saturday evening with an instant reaction, as well as everything that comes into a game day for Oklahoma. Make sure you check out the family business this week with Landry Jones. He played in the last time that OU and Missouri played in 2011. He had a big game. Him and Ryan Broyles all the way back when. So
I could use him.
We'll see you back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel next time.